Today, we are diving deep into a book that's less of a book and more of, well, an operating manual for your life. It's Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it's all about how mastering the tiny, almost invisible things we do every day can lead to absolutely remarkable results.
I mean, let's be real. We've all been there, right? You decide you're going to eat healthier, you're going to exercise more, you're going to finally stop hitting that snooze button. And for a few days, you're a rock star. But then, life happens, and you slide right back into those old routines. So what gives? Why is it so incredibly hard to make good habits stick?
Well, James Clear points his finger at this one big idea that we've all been sold. This myth that to get massive success, you need some kind of massive, earth-shaking action. We're all waiting for that one big moment of inspiration to strike. But what if that's all wrong? What if the real key to changing everything wasn't big at all? What if it was atomic?
And that brings us to the absolute core of this book, the incredible power of tiny gains. We're talking about 1% improvements. It doesn't sound like much, but when you do it consistently, it can change, well, everything. And there is no better story to illustrate this than the story of British cycling.
So get this. For about 100 years, the British cycling team was kind of a joke, just completely mediocre. Then, in 2003, they bring in this guy, Dave Brailsford, and his philosophy was simple: the aggregation of marginal gains. Basically improve everything by just 1%. He looked at the obvious stuff, the bike seats, the tire grip, but then he went further, way further. He tested different massage gels to see which ones led to faster muscle recovery. He even had the team bring their own pillows to hotels to ensure a perfect night's sleep. And the results? They were staggering. We're talking about 178 world championships and 66 Olympic gold medals in just 10 years, all from the compounding power of tiny 1% improvements.
I know what you're thinking. 1%? Come on. How much of a difference can that really make? Well, let's pull out the calculator for a second, because the math behind this is where it gets truly mind-blowing.
If you get just 1% better at something every single day for 1 year, you won't be 365% better at the end. Oh no. Because of the magic of compounding, you'll be nearly 38 times better. It's exponential. And on the flip side, if you get 1% worse each day, you decline nearly all the way down to zero. See, your small daily choices don't just add up, they compound.
This is probably my favorite quote in the whole book. It just nails it. Think about it. Your habits are like a savings account for self-improvement. Making a tiny deposit each day doesn't feel like much at the moment, but over years, that interest compounds and you end up with a fortune. Every choice you make is a little deposit into the person you are becoming.
So if this is all true, why do we give up so easily? Well, it's because we fall into what Clear calls the valley of disappointment. We expect our progress to be a straight line, but in reality, the biggest results are often delayed. He uses this amazing analogy of an ice cube. Imagine an ice cube in a room. The temperature goes from 28 degrees to 29, 30, 31, and nothing seems to be happening. It's still a solid block of ice. It feels like your effort is wasted. But it's not. It's being stored. And then you hit 32 degrees and boom, you get a breakthrough. You have to stick with things long enough to get past that plateau of latent potential. Okay, this next part is a major mindset shift. We are obsessed with setting goals, right? New Year's resolutions, 5-year plans, but James Clear argues that focusing on goals is actually a mistake. Instead, he says, we should be obsessed with our systems.
So what's the difference? Well, your goal is the result you want, to win the championship, to write the novel. The system, on the other hand, is the process that gets you there. It's the way you practice every day. It's your weekly writing schedule. And here's the kicker. Winners and losers often have the exact same goals. Every Olympian wants to win gold. The thing that separates them isn't the goal, it's the system they follow.
I want you to really let this one sink in. This might be the most important sentence in the whole book. Goals are good for setting a direction, but it's your systems, the things you do day in and day out, that actually make the progress. You fall to the level of your systems.
So if systems are what drive progress, what drive our systems? This is where we go another layer deeper, right to the core of who we are. The answer is our identity.
Clear breaks down behavior change into 3 layers, kind of like an onion. The outer layer is your outcomes. That's what you get, like losing weight. The next layer in is your process. That's what you do, like going to the gym. But the innermost core, the most powerful layer, is your identity. That's what you believe, who you think you are. Most people try to change from the outside in,
But true, lasting change, that works from the inside out.
Let me give you the perfect example from the book. Imagine two people who are trying to stop smoking. Someone offers them a cigarette. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." See? They still see themselves as a smoker who's trying to change. The second person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." Whoa! Do you feel the power in that? Their identity has already shifted. The goal isn't to just run a marathon, the goal is to become a runner.
So how do you actually build this new identity? It's not about flipping a switch. It happens one small action at a time. Every time you lace up your shoes and go for a run, even a short one, you're casting a vote for "I am a runner." Every time you write one page, you're casting a vote for "I am a writer." These tiny habits are the evidence that proves your new identity to yourself.
Okay, so we get it. We need to build systems of tiny habits that reinforce our desired identity. That sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? This is where the book gets super practical. Clear gives us this elegant, simple framework he calls the 4 laws of behavior change.
And here they are. It's so beautiful in its simplicity. If you want to create a good habit, you need to make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And if you want to break a bad habit, you just flip it. You make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. This is the practical toolkit for everything we've been talking about. We're going to focus in on that first law for a minute. Make it obvious. Because honestly, if a habit isn't obvious, if the cue to do it isn't right there in your face, it's probably never even going to get started. And the secret to making things obvious is all about designing your environment.
And here are 2 dead simple, incredibly powerful ways to do this right now. The first is an implementation intention. You're not just saying what you want to do, you're saying when and where. I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. It's so specific you can't miss it. The second is habit stacking. You piggyback your new habit onto a habit you already do. So after I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will do 1 minute of meditation. You're linking your new habit to an established routine, which makes the cue to act automatic.
And if you doubt how powerful tiny environmental tweaks can be, check this out. Researchers in a hospital cafeteria wanted people to drink more water. They didn't put up posters or give lectures. All they did was place more water bottles in the refrigerators right at eye level and put extra baskets of water next to the food stations. The result? Without saying a single word to anyone, soda sales dropped over 11% and water sales shot up by almost 26%. They just made the good choice, the obvious choice.
This leads to a really fascinating, kind of counterintuitive idea. We look at disciplined people and we think, wow, they have so much willpower. But the research suggests that's not really it. People with the best self-control are actually masters of their environment. They don't spend their day fighting temptation because they've designed their lives so temptation rarely shows up in the first place.
And there is no story that illustrates this more powerfully than the Vietnam heroin study. It was discovered that a shocking 20% of U.S. soldiers in Vietnam were addicted to heroin. Now, everyone back home was terrified, thinking there would be a massive addiction crisis when these soldiers returned. But a strange thing happened. Researchers tracked the soldiers, and they found that 9 out of 10 of them kicked their addiction almost overnight as soon as they got home. Why? Because the environment changed. All the cues that triggered their drug use in Vietnam were gone. It's a stunning example of how a radical change in your context can short-circuit even the most ingrained habits.
So here it is, the big takeaway. The secret to self-control isn't about being stronger or having more willpower. It's about being smarter. It's about being the architect of your world. You have to design an environment that makes doing the right things as easy and obvious as possible.
And that leads us to the final question, the question for you. We now know that our environment is this invisible hand guiding our choices every single day. So the question is, how are you going to stop just being a consumer of the world around you and start being its architect? What's the first small brick you're going to lay?